All right. Today is September 27th, 2003. It is 2:34 p.m. and we are about to begin our session with Lisa.
Yeah.
I typically record my first session with a new patient, but you seem uncomfortable with the tape recorder. Is this okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm used to it.
Okay. Well, I'd like to come back to that. But let's just get a few basic questions out of the way, so I can get to know you better. Is all right? Great. Let's do that then. So, Lisa, tell me about your goals in this room. What are you looking to get out of these sessions with me?
I want to know if I'm evil. Everyone I know has told me I'm an evil bitch and I don't have a soul, so I want to know if they're right.
Okay. You're here because you don't think you have a soul. Why do you think that?
Because it was my fault.
What was your fault?
It's my fault my fiancé's dead.
Okay. So this is the traumatic event you mentioned in your intake forms, I'm guessing. Your fiancé committed suicide, correct? How long ago was that?
A couple of months.
And what makes you think it was your fault?
I don't think it was. I know it was.
Did you pull the trigger?
No.
Then how is it your fault?
You can destroy a person's mind long before they do anything about it. I cheated on him. I cheated on him with his best friend. It was my fault. He told me as much.
All right. So, regardless of whether I agree with that, this is clearly weighing on you. So, why don't we just jump in with this? Is it okay if we talk about your fiancé?
I don't want to, but I guess I don't have a choice.
What was his name?
Johnny.
Johnny. Okay. How long were you in a relationship?
7 years.
Oh, wow. You knew him for a long time, didn't you? You know, Lisa, I think that the only way to understand a person's actions is to understand their story. So let's go through the whole story and work our way forward. Tell me about how you met Johnny.
Well, I just graduated from college a couple weeks before that. I was waiting in the lobby of this hotel in town. I think I was just having a coffee or something. I was watching the door and I saw the busboy, Johnny. He was carrying a bunch of plates through the restaurant across the lobby. And he locks eyes with me for a moment. And I just knew. I knew he was going to come over. But I thought maybe he wouldn't because he was working. So I look away for a while and next thing I know, he's standing right in front of my chair and he just says, "Hi." And that's how we met.
You said you were waiting in the lobby? Were you waiting for someone in particular?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I was. I was waiting for my boyfriend. My boyfriend at the time. His name was Greg. We had met at a club right after graduation. We were going to go to LA that summer to get away from my mother. She didn't like Greg at all. And I told him, if we're going to LA, let's just do it. Meet me at the hotel by the bridge and let's just fucking run for our lives. So I was waiting that night, like I told him I would be, and he never showed. I haven't heard from him since.
So the night you met Johnny, you were waiting for someone else.
Yeah, but by that point I knew he wasn't gonna show. He just left me there, alone where I could be accosted by random dudes. That's what Johnny was. Johnny was random. He was wearing a suit jacket that made him look like a kid in a trench coat. He had on these wraparound sunglasses, like Terminator style. I couldn't tell you for the life of me how old he was. He looked like some kind of grunge vampire. And that was all fine. It was just different, but when he said hi, he didn't say anything else. He just stared at me. Like if he tried hard enough, he could pull my clothes off with his eyes. He freaked me the fuck out. I left the lobby almost immediately after he came up to me. And then I spent the next 2 hours calling Greg, and he never answered. I don't remember how many times I called him, but he never called me back.
So you didn't like Johnny when you met him at first?
Fuck no. I wanted Greg. I missed Greg. Greg was my Romeo. He was supposed to come save me from my life, and we were going to start over together. But he didn't want that. He didn't want me. So, later that night, I went down to the hotel bar. I'd spent the whole night crying. I was exhausted. I thought maybe if I had enough vodka, it would cauterize my tear ducts. And then all of a sudden, Johnny's sitting with me at the bar, and he's buying me shots, and he's not creepy like he was before. He's just nice. Like, he could tell I was upset. He asked me how he could help me. He kept complimenting me. Like how he loved my dimples. No one had ever complimented my dimples before. Greg hated them. And for the first time that night, I felt just comfortable. Content. I haven't thought about this in so long. I forgot how I fell for him in the first place.
I can tell. These memories are pretty raw for you. Why do you think you forgot them?
It's like, you know how history is like before Christ and after death of Christ? That's what my life is like. Before Johnny and after Johnny. And the whole part before Johnny isn't relevant. I hate that. I fucking hate him. I know that's awful for me to say after what I did, but I hate him for defining my life.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back to the bar for a moment. You were happy when you were with him in the bar. What happened after that?
You know what's funny about that? We were happy in the bar for like 5 seconds. And then he starts telling me about how he would treat me right, and I need to go home with him when he finishes his shift. I told him I wasn't ready for that. Not that I hated him, just that I didn't feel ready for that, and he wouldn't drop it. He kept begging me, telling me how beautiful I was, how I deserved to be treated like a princess, and I ended up just paying for our drinks and leaving. He tried to follow me into the elevator. He just turned on a dime. Major red flag. He never told his friends that part of the story. He just told everyone how funny it was that I paid.
So how did you guys come together after that?
When I went to check out the next day, there was a package waiting for me at the desk. It was a necklace. A little thin lace choker, packed into a little jewelry box with his phone number on a piece of paper tucked inside. I don't know where he got the necklace. Nothing was open at that hour in the morning, but there it was. I took it with me and I went home, assuming I'd give it to a friend or something. But then my mother found it. My mother couldn't have been more thrilled about that series of events. First, that Greg left me out of nowhere. And second, that I found someone else who was willing to give me gifts after 1 hour in a bar. I tried to tell her that I didn't really think of him like that I saw all of these red flags. He tried to follow me into a fucking elevator, but where I saw a red flag, my mom saw blood in the water. She told me that I needed to give the nice man a chance. And if he gave me such a lovely gift, it was only right that I give him something back. He'd complimented me. Wasn't that exciting? Didn't I want someone who would compliment me like that? So I called him. What was the worst thing that could happen?
How did that go?
Well, that was the beginning of a 7-year relationship, you tell me.
Just because you were together for years doesn't mean I know the story of your relationship. Were you happy?
There's this thing that people talk about with cult leaders. What they do to win over the people they're recruiting into the cult. What is that called? When they give them gifts and stuff? Love bombing, I think. That's what Johnny did. He love bombed me so hard. He constantly brought me flowers, clothes, jewelry. He bought me a goddamn car. He always used to say, anything for my princess. But I didn't really want to be a princess, or I didn't want to be his princess, because being his princess didn't mean cute fairy tale magical shit. There was something sinister to us from the beginning, like a ticking time bomb under our apartment floor. Because, there was a reason why he called me princess, and not something else. Not queen, or anything like that. That would imply some control. Princesses don't get control. They sit still and look pretty and obey their lord and sovereign. I guess I was pretty good at that. He used to say to his friends, like, my Lisa, she's great whenever I can get any. Like, he fucked me every night, and it still wasn't enough for him. He couldn't even bring himself to say something nice about me to his friends.
Did you have anyone you could talk to about this? Maybe your coworkers or your mother?
My mother practically adopted him. He was the son she wished I had been. They talked about everything. She was his greatest champion because he bought me expensive gifts and had a good job. And suddenly the world revolved around getting me a good husband who could support me and buy me stupid bullshit anytime he wanted something from me. From the minute they met, he became the most wonderful man in the world. Or at least the most wonderful man in the world for me. She told me once that she was so glad Greg had left me because now that he wasn't an option, I could grow up and pick a man in my league. She said that to me. I couldn't keep a man like Greg because I wasn't pretty enough, smart enough of anything, but I could keep Johnny. I could be his princess. I thought that was pretty rude, not just to me, but to him. But I never said anything. I gave up my real job for him, I'd just gotten my bachelor's in computer science, but he convinced me I didn't need to work if he could support us. Besides, the field was so competitive. Did I really think I'd be able to get a job? Why bother? He said, You're too pretty to waste your time with that, princess. As it turned out, belonging to Johnny was a full-time job. When he came home from work at 4 p.m., I needed to be waiting on the couch for him with makeup on and a tight shirt. The kinds of shirts he bought me all the time. The clothes were job perks disguised as kind gestures. When he wanted dinner and wine, it needed to be ready. Even if I just ordered a pizza, it had better be delivered the second he wanted it. I didn't have time for my own friends. All I had were his heavily vetted friends and neighbors who never saw him behind closed doors. To them, he was the most precious angel. Peter, Michelle, and her boyfriend, I don't remember his name. They used to come into our apartment to fuck. I always thought that was really weird. I tried talking to Johnny about it, but he just laughed at me. And Denny. Oh, sweet little Denny from next door. He admired Johnny like a father. His parents had died a couple years before we met him. Apparently we were the best he could do. And there was Mark.
Sorry, who was Mark?
Johnny's best friend.
Okay. How did you feel about Mark?
Mark made me fuck. I don't know.
Is Mark difficult for you to talk about?
Mark's the guy.
Oh, the one that... Right. Got it. Are you comfortable talking about him?
No, but I feel like I want to anyways.
Alright then. So, tell me a little about Mark. Anything you remember? Anything that you feel comfortable talking about?
Mark was... He was funny. Relaxed. Impossibly so. Like, nothing bothered him. Nothing in the world could be awful enough to shake him from his California tranquility. He actually asked me questions about my life, talked to me about his work, his friends, everything he did. We shared things with each other, like friends are supposed to. And he actually listened to me. He remembered what I said the next time I saw him. He had a dangerous streak, though. He could turn on a dime from anger to calm without warning, like a shock of electricity. I think I liked that about him. I liked that he was passionate. His feelings were real. Not like Johnny. Johnny got angry, sure, but it felt like a performance. Like a calculated manipulation. At least with me, that's how it felt. But Mark never felt like that. Mark felt so real. Even if his danger was real, too. He had this wavy hair, like an American Eagle model. He always wore these aviator sunglasses with the gold rims. They made him look mysterious. It was so rare to see any sunglasses that weren't Terminator ones, like Johnny. It made him rare. He was everything I wasn't worthy of. So I didn't try. I never tried to come on to him at first. Really, I didn't.
It sounds like he was kinder to you than Johnny.
But Johnny was kind. Everyone always said that he was kind. And there was something to him. A genuineness that was really endearing. But it was like he could turn it on and off. I don't think he meant to, but his kindness was conditional. Conditional to him getting exactly what he wanted. His kind smile was held up at the corners by these hair-width threads that could snap at any time. But that didn't matter because he said he loved me. That was undeniable. He did love me. I'm sure of it. You know what they say, there's a fine line between love and hate, and he couldn't have hated me the way he did sometimes if he didn't love me, right? I think I loved him. I was so sure I did at some point. What I do know is, by the time everything happened, I didn't love him at all.
When did you realize that?
When
what?
The night Johnny proposed. We were on the rooftop, having a party with his friends. He proposed to me right when he knew I wouldn't have the balls to say no. I mean, we'd been together for 7 years. It'd be weird if I said no. God knows my mother would crucify me, so I locked myself in. And a couple days later, I went out for a job interview. There was this place in town. I was working for a computer programmer. They'd put an ad in the classifieds. I knew that if Johnny didn't get that promotion he'd been going on about, we'd be fucked. Especially if we were all of a sudden getting married, so I went in. I didn't tell Johnny. Or my mother, for that matter, and it went great. It had been so long since someone had talked to me like I was smart. So it went great, and I went home on the trolley, but stupid trolley got stuck somewhere, and it was running behind schedule. And I got home 10 minutes after 4. He was home. He was standing in the living room of our apartment, facing the door, just waiting for me to come home. And he starts asking where I've been, which was normal. He always wanted to know where I'd been if it wasn't grocery shopping. He was so paranoid that I was going to start cheating on him. He said it all the time. I tried to tell him I had just been out with a friend, but then of course he wanted to know which friend, and if this friend was a guy, and I tried to avoid it. I managed to get up into the bedroom, and I tried to convince him I wanted a nap, but he was having none of it. He smelled like the vodka he'd shoved down my throat the night we met. He'd probably had a hard day at work, so he was feeling extra paranoid, and finally I just felt that part inside my chest holding me together snapping. And I just started screaming that I was getting a job, I was gonna leave this apartment, and if he didn't like it, he could go fuck himself. I was gonna be his wife, not his toy. And he didn't like that, so he pushed me back down into my place. There had been times when he would grab my wrist a little too tight or nudge me into something just a little too hard, but he'd never actually shoved me like that before. He'd never pushed me so hard that I fell. I always knew one of us was going to get hurt on that stupid spiral staircase. As it turned out, it was a great place to push your girlfriend when she gets out of line. And when I woke up the next morning, he was standing over me, watching me just like he did in that hotel lobby. And he said, you should stay home today if you're so tired. When I come home, I want to see my princess. I want to give my princess a present. And when he got home, he brought me this long red dress. He made me try it on, beaming like a king, and he just says, anything for my princess. I tried to tell my mom. I told her I didn't want to marry him anymore. I told her I was pretty sure he got drunk off his ass, and then he hit me. I didn't bother to tell her the rest. And you know what she said? Johnny doesn't drink. That's it. Just Johnny doesn't drink. Like she forgot we met in a goddamn hotel bar. And as it turns out, they were both right. I didn't get the job. The computer business was too competitive. I knew then that nothing was ever going to change.
What did you do then?
What I did was I stopped failing. I didn't give a shit if I hurt him anymore. I didn't care if I was still his precious princess. And I called Mark after my mom left one day. At first it was just because he felt like the one person I could trust, and then it all fell into place. For once, I was gonna do what I wanted to do. I was gonna fuck Mark. No, actually, we were going to make love. We were going to be in love. He was going to save me. We were going to save each other. It all made sense.
How did you feel when you first started sleeping with Mark?
How did I feel? How did I feel? Well, I was feeling. Being with Mark wasn't just an obligation. It was exciting. It was dangerous. Like we were balancing on the edge of a cliff and we could fall at any moment. I tasted true power on the edge of that cliff. I made out with another man on that fucking spiral staircase. Johnny had made that his staircase, but now it belonged to me. I had never felt so alive. Isn't that awful?
And once you started doing that, what was your relationship with Mark like? Do you think you loved him?
I thought I did. Maybe not. Maybe he was just there, but I really thought I loved Mark. I thought we had something more.
You say you thought. Are you not with Mark anymore?
No. No, he left me after we found Johnny. Suddenly, the immorality of what I had done was just too much to bear.
So, the night Johnny took his life, what do you remember about it?
It was his surprise party for his birthday. I told him I was pregnant before the party that night. I still don't know why I did that. It was a complete lie, but it was like I was addicted to lying to him. I can't explain it. I hate that I did that. But Johnny knew about Mark and me at that point. It was so obvious. He was always such a shitty pretender. He just wanted me to slip up. So I did. I danced with Mark in front of everyone. Of course he saw us. I didn't care. It was exhilarating. He and Mark got into a big fight in front of everyone over me. I didn't care. I actually felt desirable that night. For that one night, I was a real prize. He told me later that night that he had been recording our answering machine to catch me calling Mark. Like I didn't fucking know that. He really thought I was a dumbass. Of course he was recording our answering machine. That is such a Johnny thing to do. I wanted him to. I even called Mark while Johnny was listening through the other side of the wall that night after the party. I was going to hand him the cold, hard truth on a silver platter. The last thing Johnny ever said to me was, "Everybody betrayed me. I don't have a friend in the world. And I told him I was leaving him right then and there, because he finally knew how he made me feel. And when I came back into our apartment, he was dead. I don't remember anything after that, coming back into the apartment with Mark, but I know I finally fell off the cliff. I wept. I wept over his body like Mary goddamn Magdalene. When it was all over, it wasn't about Johnny or Mark or me. It was about a waste of human life. It was about 3 people treating each other like scum. I was the worst thing that ever happened to him.
Sounds like to me he was the worst thing that ever happened to you.
I can never forget him. He couldn't let me forget him. If he couldn't have me, he was gonna make sure no one else ever would. That's such an awful thing to say. I destroyed that man, and all I can think about is myself. They were right about me all along. I'm an awful person.
I don't think so, Lisa.
Jesus Christ! Have you been listening to a word I said? I just described my entire revenge plot on my fiancé. How was that not fucking horrific?
Trust me, I've heard worse. I'm not saying I condone your actions. You have regrets, and you have to deal with them. But you're not pure evil. You just didn't get to tell your side of the story.
That's not true. I'm evil. I'm bad.
You did bad things. There's no denying that. But that does not make you responsible for another person's choices. Or another person's death. I don't think you're bad, Lisa. I don't think you're bad. I just think you need a little kindness and a little help.
I'm not bad.
You're not bad.
I'm not bad.
You're not bad.
Thank you, Doctor. I think I should get going now.
Shall we plan on the same time next week?
Yes. Yes, I think there's still some things I need to work through.
I agree.
You know what I just remembered? The most manipulative thing Johnny ever did to me? He pushed me against the couch, and he was yelling about how he never hit me, and how I was lying, classic gaslighting. And when that didn't work, he fell into the most dramatic fit of hysteria. It was the worst acting I have ever seen from a grown man. And he says to me, "You're tearing me apart, Lisa." He would know, wouldn't he?